we should obviously talk about the Golden Globe Awards, the 82nd
Mm-hmm.
Golden Globe Awards, which went down this past weekend, as I said. The very beginning of award season, and the Golden Globes is always somewhat of an interesting, I guess, first look at what the rest of award season might look like. But then there's also some questions as to whether or not it's a true bellwether for any significant meaning for the remainder of award season when we talk about things like the SAG Awards and the Oscars. Like, does it have any actual significant implications? And I feel like I always come out of the show not really having a much clear
Yeah.
answer to that question.
Yeah.
Some things it's like, yeah, it might feel that way. Other things I'm like, oh, I don't know if it'll affect anything at all. And I think that probably remains true here. But of course, we're going to talk about all of the big winners of the night, the movies that certainly had huge showings, the TV that did pretty well for the night as well, and then as I've alluded to, what it all might sort of portend for the next few weeks as we get to the Oscars. But before we dive into that stuff, how much of the telecast did you get to see? What did you think about just the presentation of everything? They've changed around a few things, as we know from a couple of years ago after the Hollywood Foreign Press Association was dissolved, and essentially it created this new Golden Globe. So it is somewhat of a new era. This is the second year now that they're sort of under this new umbrella of leadership, so to say. But what did you think about just the overall presentation of the show and just the telecast and the broadcast in general?
Yeah, I caught pretty much the whole thing. Again, usually sometimes if I have time or remember to watch on time, I like to watch red carpets, but a lot of that stuff I only seen, I think, on social media. I do still like fashion. I like to see people's looks and stuff. But I did get to see the Golden Globes beginning to end, the actual show itself. And, it was an interesting year. There's some things I like, some things I think I didn't like. The camera work is still weird to me. Half the time I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Why does this thing look like this? Even it's funny because I remember Seth Rogen got up there and was like, this camera thing is weird. I'm like, yeah, you're saying what we're all thinking tonight. This is a weird look and a weird feeling here with this camera work, but that stuff is weird. I really appreciated Nikki Glaser as a host, actually, after I forgot his name, but you remember
Joe
he
Coy.
kind of bombed. Joel Coy kind of bombed last year.
Oh, he bombed big time.
She didn't, so it wasn't the highest bar set for Nikki Glaser, but I think she came in and did what she had to do. I actually enjoyed her a decent amount of the night. I don't think she made the room feel as tense as Joe Coy did last year. Man, there's some heartfelt speeches that were in there, but overall it was just an okay show. I think when we get to the awards, start talking about the awards, I have more to say, because it's still not indicative, like you said, of any other award shows, but it does still feel like a new Globes. You know what I mean? Like the way the awards went definitely still feels like a new Globes, and some of those awards could have went other ways. But, overall, I was just like, this is interesting. I feel like we learned a lot this year. I think next year, again, we need to figure out this camera. This camera stuff is weird. But other than that, I think it was an okay night for the Golden Globes.
I'm glad Seth Rogen called it out. He was probably the perfect person to do so with the whole camera angle situation. I know why they do it. It's to show the stars in the room, because that's what the Globes is all about. Like, look who's sitting next to who, and this person, and these people are sitting at the table, because everybody is in such close proximity to each other. So I get the desire to want to show that as much as possible. But like he pointed out, it's like, I got my back to the audience. You guys are like right square up in my face. There was also like some weird, I guess, teleprompter issues. I heard that they don't really rehearse for this show, which is not what the Oscars do. Every presenter that gets on that stage, they absolutely rehearse their bits and go through stuff. And I think you can kind of tell there were some awkward moments. Some of the whole presentation bits, I would say most of them didn't really work, with the exception of Seth Rogen and Catherine O'Hara. They nailed that, because they probably wrote it themselves, and it completely shows. So they were great. Andrew Garfield got up there and had everybody thirsting over, that little moment that he had on stage.
He had his chest open.
He knew where the light was. He was ready to go. He knew what he was doing.
He's like Vic Mensa at the BT Awards.
Oh yeah, he did.
It's like the same concept.
He found his light for sure, and I'm glad that he did, because he knew what stage he was on. But most of those pairings and just like some of that stuff that came before didn't really work. So yeah, overall, like the presentation and the show itself was okay. It was fine. I do definitely want to shout out Nikki Glaser. I had no apprehension about her when they announced her. I saw her bit during the roast of Tom Brady, and she was fucking hilarious.
Mm.
Like,
Hmm.
probably stole the night during that particular show. And so I'm like, oh yeah, she's a great host. She can certainly be mean, but I think that she also knows the line to not cross, because
Yeah, with taste. Yeah.
Joe Coy, what he did last year was like, you don't know what room you're in, my guy. Like, this is not
Hmm.
a typical comedy room. Like, you have to kind of tread lightly here, when you're talking about some of these celebrities. And Nikki Glazer even
Exactly.
released a lot of the jokes that they cut out, and you could tell like there was some mean stuff in there. And it's like, yeah, it's probably better that you didn't put that in there. Like, I actually agree
Hmm.
with those cut choices. And so, yeah, it was overall, it was a solid, fine show. But I'm also at the same token, I guess, wondering as we do enter this new phase of new globes, like the
Hmm.
old globes was definitely tacky, unserious, but it
Yeah,
also had a
it's a
little
good
bit of a
time.
charm to it.
Yeah.
People were getting drunk and they were saying kind of whatever, and we've kind of lost that, and I don't really
Yeah.
know why. I don't know if it's because it's like a new globes, or maybe it's because celebrities are a little bit more protective, maybe actually a lot more protective of
Hmm.
their images and what
That's
they
true.
put out there. They don't want to be as loose, because we've seen some people get on that stage and it's like, yo, what's going on here? But
Hmm.
those make for the best moments that you won't get at the Oscars or the SAGs or any other show. It feels like they're kind of losing that, and
Yeah,
I don't know what that might look like
I'd agree for
next
sure.
year and future years, but it does take a little bit of the spark out of what we've seen previously. But let's talk about the winners and just like the overall narratives that are coming out of this. And so on the movie side of things, and I think we're going to focus on movies because TV, they kind of just did repeat business from the Emmys. But on the movie side of things, Emilia Perez, huge winner of the night, 4 awards, and came out looking pretty dominant and looking like a surefire favorite in some
Hmm.
respects heading into the rest of award season, especially when we talk about the Oscars. The Brutalist is right behind Emilia Perez with 3 awards, sort of asserted itself as a very, very viable contender. And then also other films that won pretty much just 1 award throughout the night. It was a pretty split, even field. Challengers was able to pick up something. Best score, Conclave won for best screenplay. A Different
Hmm.
Man, Sebastian Stan picked up that award. Other films like The Substance and I'm Still Here. It definitely was a pretty split field for the most part. Again, outside of Emilia Perez and The Brutalist, which really kind of dominated. And just to quickly mention the TV stuff, Shogun won all 4 of the awards that it was up for, and then right behind it was Baby Reindeer and Hacks, which both won 2 awards apiece. Again, a lot of the same stuff that we saw out of the Emmys, with
Yeah.
a couple of new things sprinkled in that we can get to in a second here. But focusing on the movies and just sort of
Yeah.
the cinematic side of things. I mean, what are you overall thinking just about this showing from, in particular, I think Emilia Perez and The
Yeah.
Brutalist, just coming in and possibly with I think we have about a week or 2 left in Academy voting before the nominations come out in a couple of weeks
Hmm.
here. Possibly with these wins, maybe signaling where the momentum is leading as we move towards the rest of the award season.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Amelia Perez throwing me for a loop, Globes, because that movie, I think, if you ask a lot of people before the Globes happened, that movie winning this many awards is it definitely. I think a lot of people are like, what is going on up in here? And I think I do understand some why a lot of voters feel good voting for Amelia Perez and the movie that it is. But yeah, it's just such an interesting, I think, film to talk about, because on one side you're like, okay, I see why they feel good voting for it. On the other side, you have a whole slew of the internet talking about why you shouldn't like Amelia Perez. And I don't know, it's a very controversial movie happening here. And I think some the biggest, honestly, one of the biggest takeaways and surprises that Amelia Perez got so much love is Honora getting shut out completely. I think that's the biggest surprise for me, is like, whoa, Honora doesn't get anything, and that comes because Amelia Perez got so much. And so that's the one thing I think I'm looking at. I didn't expect going into the Globes and award season was Honora getting shut out completely, because again, so much momentum coming into award seasons. What is Honora going to look like after this? Again, is the Globes really indicative of too much? I don't know. I don't think so, but it is. I still have to look at it sideways, like, dang, Honora didn't get anything, so that's interesting. And I also was very curious on how they were going to treat the Brutalist. I'm proud of the Globes from the way they treated the Brutalist. I was really happy about, of course, Adrian Brody, Brady Corbet, and it getting Best Picture. I was really, I think, happy and excited to see that it land those awards, because again, a little bit in a couple ways, it's like, oh, that's what New Globes would do. I'm really happy in that aspect. But in the Amelia Perez side of things, I definitely they definitely kind of left me scratching my head throughout the night with that award or with that film winning so many awards.
I'll start with The Brutalist quickly. I'm ecstatic. I'm over the moon that it was able to have this type of showing. I'm gonna talk about it a little bit later in more detail when we get to our top 10. It's my favorite movie of the year. I was worried about it though, genuinely, just because
Yeah,
of the fact that it is this 3.5 hour, very
exactly.
artsy, epic movie. And I think historically, especially in the past 10 or so years, we don't typically see those types of movies do that well when it comes to these award shows. They do
Exactly.
extremely well critically. They're very well
Hmm.
received, but in terms of winning awards, they haven't really proven to be sort of the populist films that I think a lot of people tend to rally behind. And so I was worried about it because of that respect. And so this is, I think, potentially signaling somewhat of a sea change for the Brutalist and what it might mean, again, leading into the rest of these shows. Emilia Perez, I still don't know how to correctly pronounce it. Sharon Stone got up there and did the French pronunciation. She said
Yeah,
Perez.
I said, oh, is this
I,
French,
I'm like,
Mexican? I don't know what this movie
we
is.
just busting it out all together, just all the different pronunciations. But
Yeah,
in any respect, this is so crazy to me because, as you said, pretty much the internet does not like this movie at all,
they
like
are trashing
whatsoever.
it. Yeah.
Critics do, I think the majority of them like it and appreciate it and
Hmm.
like the audaciousness of it. And
Hmm.
Jacques Audiard is an extremely well respected filmmaker. And I think that has a lot working for it. But I don't know, it's kind of confounding just because you have a movie that the people that have seen it have been very critical of it from a sort of a fan perspective, and then there's still
Right.
quite a large amount of people that have not even seen this movie. Like
That's true.
it didn't necessarily break through to the top 10 on Netflix. Like it
Yeah.
didn't have this huge swell of conversation around it when it released. It's still like a relatively unseen film, and if this happens to be the movie that
Hmm.
goes all the way for Netflix, like, and potentially wins Best Picture, if this is the one that does it after they have been campaigning
No,
so
there's no
hard,
way. Yeah,
there is a way. There actually
there is a
is a
way.
way. There's
Yeah,
very much
there's
a
a way.
way. But if it's this movie that does it after they have just thrown everything behind previous films like Roma and The Power of the Dog, like these other, I
Hmm.
would say, better films
Yeah,
that just didn't manage to win that huge award that they've been,
yeah,
after for so long. If it turns out to be Emilia Perez, that'll be I mean, that'll be like the funniest thing ever, if you ask me. It'll be
yeah.
quite
It'd be pretty
hilarious.
crazy.
But it feels like we're kind of in a situation. I hate to do this because I like this movie more than these other movies I'm about to mention. But it
Hmm.
feels like we're in similar territory as what we experienced with Crash in like '06,
Oh,
and then
oh
also
no,
Green Book
oh
in
no. Yeah.
2018, 2019.
Hmm.
I mean, look, I think both Crash and Green Book are fine movies. They're not bad movies, but they're
Hmm.
not movies that people really like at all.
Right.
And they're going up against movies that people would rather see win. And I think we might be
Yeah.
in a similar situation with Emilia Perez here. And if
Hmm.
it does win, I think there's going to be a lot of backlash. Like, don't you think that might be a huge possibility that this can create another year of just conversation where it's like, wait, this I've already seen it online. People are comparing the musical acts of Emilia Perez to Wicked, which I think is ridiculous to begin with, but
What?
people are having that conversation right
Okay.
now already.
Uh-huh.
So I think it's very possible that we could see some big backlash if it does turn out to win even more awards at the Oscars.
Yeah, I think it's one of those other aspects, like where, and similar to Green Book, like you said, as controversial as that movie can be online, the critics do not care. They're gonna vote how they want to vote. But similar to Green Book is one of those movies that it white people felt good voting for it. You know what I mean? They were like, "Oh man, this movie comes in," and I feel like Green Book is a good vote, and I think Amelia Perez has a lot of that same kind of steam behind it, where people are like, "Whoa, wow, this is not only Spanish and French, but there's a little bit of trans things in here," and they feel good voting for it. And so, I like you said, I think there is a way that this could be the film that we see bubbling up, come Academy Awards of like the one that might make it and go all the way. I'm not again. I'm not sure what's going to happen, but like you said, out of all those movies, shoot, Roma only got director when it came out. You know what I mean? It's just like wow, this movie did a lot at the Globes. It's definitely you have to raise your eyebrow to what might come in the future for the film. You really do. So yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I mean, look, a lot of it is campaigning, narratives,
Hmm.
story. Amelia Perez has all of that. Like it
Yeah,
has the full package. Like from
it
a
has it.
package standpoint, in terms of a narrative, like Zoe Saldana,
People love Zoe too.
that's a
Yeah, people love
huge
Zoe.
thing. That's a huge
Mhm.
get. Selena Gomez, like she's one of the biggest stars. It is a
Yeah,
trans story. It is, this audacious original idea. Started off as an opera. I will never take any of that away from it because it does have a lot of elements that do work in its favor. But at the same time, the movie, I feel extremely mixed about it. It's not like the greatest thing I've ever seen by any
yeah.
stretch. And I think a lot of
Mhm.
people kind of feel that way, either mixed or, just complete. I'm just not here for it. It's not my type of movie unless you are a critic that's probably a part of one of these voting bodies, like what we're seeing with the Golden Globes. But
Right.
I don't know if we can be that surprised. Like it did get nominated 10 times. So the likelihood that it was going to walk away with a lot of trophies was pretty high, even coming into the award show on Sunday. But I don't know what it says about the Academy and where their interests might lie. It's also just the element, the idea that this is a very international film. Freaking Jacques Audiard does not even speak English, and that's working in its favor as well. And we know that the Academy has an increasingly international presence now as a part of the Academy that votes. And so that also
Yes.
might just be a huge, huge get for them, a huge selling point that they ended up working with. But we should also talk about, I think, coming from that, just the actor and actress races. And let's, sort of continue the conversation here with actor, in particular, Adrian Brody ended up walking away with the trophy for the Brutalist for the drama category. And then for musical or comedy, I think probably my favorite win of the night, Sebastian Stan, won for
Yes.
A Different Man from the musical or comedy
Yes.
category. But
Yes. Yes.
in continuing with the Brutalist conversation again, Adrian Brody, I think right
Mhm.
now the big race is between him and Timothy Chalamet for a
I agree.
complete unknown.
Mhm.
I'll get into Timothy later when I talk about that movie. But how did you feel about Adrian Brody coming in here and sort of I think making a pretty good case, even with his speech, which was very emotional, very
Yeah.
connected to his personal story.
Mhm.
Um, the speeches historically we have seen can do a lot in terms of where it
That's
takes you
true.
for the rest of the season, and I think that he kind of nailed it, and he kind of got there to a place where it's like if you didn't feel a certain way about Adrian Brody, or if you might have been on the fence between him and Timothy, having this moment sort of go to him and him being highlighted in that way might have swayed a lot of favor in his particular court when it comes to the Brutalist.
Yeah, I definitely think, again, talking about trends and things, I think SAG will be interesting to see. I don't like. Part of me is like, will Adrian Brody still win at SAG? I don't know, but I think this was definitely important in my mind for what's going to happen the rest of the season. Like you said, between Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, and like you said, Adrian Brody's speech was so good. He was definitely one of the best speeches of the night. And like you said, I think it'll help him potentially in the long run. And we've also seen when people win and like a lot of times Globes is their first speech. I'm thinking about like Divine Grace Randolph. You know what I mean? Like she gives her first speech one place. It's like, well, I got to have fire speeches now when I win everywhere. And it's nothing but a continuous flow after that. And I think Adrian Brody will, probably kind of be on that train of like, oh, what is this speech going to sound like? What is that speech going to sound like? I think he's kind of prepared to have that run. And I think Timothy Chalamet might be completely shut out, I think, in that way. And so yeah, man, we'll have to see. But I think I was always leaning towards Adrian Brody here. And I'm glad he did it. Again, I also want to shout out Sebastian Stan, like you said, for A Different Man. I was really happy to see him get that award, especially he was up there for two different movies. You know what I'm saying? Even when he gave his speech, he was up there for both A Different Man and The Apprentice. It's funny. It was like, wait, are you talking about The Apprentice? Are you talking about A Different Man? He was kind of mixing his speeches, which was really dope. So really happy to see him as well. But yeah, I think Adrian Brody's about to clean up this award season.
Timmy just got a little bit more work to do, even though like he's been doing great. I think
Oh, he's been going
I
crazy.
think what he's been doing in terms of not only picking projects but just his presence and him being out there. I was very hesitant about Timothy Chalamet in like the early years. Call Me by Your Name, Lady Bird. I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously being positioned as like the next guy up, but now I'm
Yeah.
like, I think he's starting to get it. Like on the heels of Wonka and the Dune franchise and
Mm-hmm.
this and just I mean, him even showing up on College Game Day, like that did a lot for him.
He
Just like
was going crazy.
he was incredible. Like he was
He was
incredible on
going
College
nuts.
Game Day.
Yeah. He was
That
so good.
transcended, I think what people thought he might have been capable of, and just like the personality of him. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's completely over for him yet, but the case for Adrian Brody is like really, really strong at this particular point. I do think it's still between those two.
Yeah.
Sebastian Stan, I just I mean, talk about a guy who is using his Marvel stock to actually make good and challenging work outside of the MCU. That's what I want to see. And I think that that's like why we had the conversation about Chris Evans that we did a few weeks ago after Red One. It's like, Chris Evans, you know what good movies look like. You know what good projects are. You've done them before. What's happening in the past like 5 years, I don't understand exactly. Sebastian Stan just continuously is doing this over and over and over again. He's incredible in The Apprentice. He's incredible in A Different Man. Like, that snuck into my top 25. It's a movie that I've been thinking about ever since I saw it. He won't get any more recognition probably outside of this. Like, it's not going to be one of those Oscar contenders, I don't think. So I'm really, really glad that he was able to have this moment and to get on stage and to say what he said, because he's also like revealed that nobody wanted to do variety actors on actors with him because they didn't want to talk about Donald Trump and The Apprentice. Like, they didn't want to have that conversation. And it's like, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, why are we shying away from something that's very real? Like, this is all something that we deal with. Like, it's more than half the country voted for this guy. Like, why are we acting like it just doesn't exist? You know? So I'm just glad that he's pushing to do stuff like that, and he's continuing to challenge himself as well. On the actress side of things, so this is where I just like I get completely confused and perplexed by a lot. Firstly, let's start off with Fernanda Torres from I'm Still Here. Let's start there. She won Best Actress Drama. I think easily the biggest surprise of the night. Like, a come from behind win that nobody pretty much expected. I mean, she's going against really, really heavy hitters. Nicole Kidman, Tilda Swinton, Angelina Jolie. Like, these are huge names. And Fernanda Torres, who's been a working actress for a very long time and even has legacy connections to this show. You know, they put out the fun, I guess, factoid that 25 years prior to her winning, her mother also won a Golden Globe at the same award show. But she won for I'm Still Here. This is a movie I still haven't seen. It's not really been widely released as of yet, but it's been getting a lot of praise. It's one of the international submissions that'll be I think it's already made it to the short list for the Oscars. But this I think throws a monkey wrench in the whole Best Actress conversation, which is already really, really, really stacked this year. It's a very competitive year, probably the most competitive category this year. What were your thoughts on just seeing this and just sort of the surprise nature of Fernanda Torres coming from behind here and winning this award?
Bro, what? First of all, I love that Fernanda Torres was picked, and again, this is one of those things that I was like, oh, this is new Globes, because ain't no way old Globes you gonna have Angelina Jolie, Tilda Swinton, Nicole Kidman, Kate Winslet, who we talked about. Everybody just freaking loves Kate Winslet in the running for this thing, and they give it to Fernanda Torres. I was so surprised.
They would have picked Nicole for sure if it was old Globes.
Yeah, old Globes would have picked her. Actually, I think they had the Angelina Jolie too, low key.
Maybe so. Yeah.
Maybe. But yeah, man, I was so surprised, but I was very happy about it too, because even though I haven't seen that film yet, out of all the films that are here, Baby Girl, Maria, I'm Still Here is the one that's the best talked about. You know what I mean? Like, it's at least like probably the highest regarded movie out of a lot of these films, even though these performances may be doing well. And so I was like, whoa, Fernanda Torres. I don't know. It just felt like something different, something outside of the norm that we would do in Golden Globes. I liked it a lot, but like you said, huge surprise. I didn't see it coming.
On the other side of it, Demi Moore wins for The Substance, Best Actress, Musical or Comedy. This is a situation where if she wasn't going to be nominated for an Oscar, she has stamped her fucking check. She's going to be nominated because she fucking nailed her speech. Best speech of the night. She gave a masterclass on how to give a speech and how to alter the course of what conversations could look like for these particular races. Because I think she's always been in the conversation, but I think she's been mostly on the periphery just because of the nature of the movie. The movie's a genre film. It's very much sci-fi, horror, fantasy, over-the-top stuff. It's a difficult film to watch at times. Not your typical movie that would likely get a lot of awards conversations. Again, a very, very much a critical darling. One of the most popular films on Letterboxd last year. It's incredible what it did. Did pretty well at the box office, but not necessarily an Academy Award-winning movie, right? But Demi Moore gets up there, wins, talks about how she's never won anything in 45 years worth of acting, which I had to think, I'm like, damn, this is probably true. Like, she's often just been presented as sort of a sex symbol, a beauty figure. She's very much been,
Mm-hmm.
recognized for her beauty and her looks. And
Yep.
partially that's what the substance is about. And so we're now blending all of those things. We're blending the narrative of the movie, what it's about, adding it into your own personal story, and then it all just comes together in a neatly tied bow. And I think she's now a shoo-in to be nominated. I don't know about when, but I think she is 100% getting nominated for an Academy Award at this point. And I would not have said that before her winning and giving this speech on Sunday.
Yeah, and I think this is also, again, so surprising because of everything you just said. I mean, the substance, first of all, is like award shows just doesn't care about horror. We know that first and foremost. But to see a award show care about the substance the way they have is like, whoa, like all the nominations it's gotten, the fact that Demi Moore even won this award is like, whoa, y'all really like the substance. And so when Demi Moore wins this, like you said, it not only shoes in for her in the Academy Award, but it does give her a lot more, this speech gives her a lot more play behind that too, because she has the narrative. These award shows love narratives. They just love them. And Demi Moore, like you said, she comes in, she gives that speech. Somebody called her a popcorn actress at some point. Like it's so crazy when the actress or the actor is resembling what happened in the movie that they're being nominated for. You know what I mean? And
it's a comeback story, like a classic
it's a comeback story. It's just like, wow, there's actually something here. And so yeah, she just got so much fire underneath her after this win that I didn't see coming. I'm really happy for her. Again, the only thing I'm afraid for with this win is like Mikey Madison, what is happening with Honora? I don't know what's happening with Honora. I still have to like stop everybody, like, all right, y'all, what's going on with Honora? Is Honora getting completely shut out? I don't like the sound of that. But I also have to say I'm really happy that the substance is getting the eyes and in winning in ways that I didn't think it would. I'm very happy for her.
So let's quickly talk about that. As of now, we're predicting here just loosely. If we had to pick 5 for the Oscars, is it going to be? I'll throw mine out. Let me know if you agree or disagree. I think shoe-ins are Demi Moore, Cynthia Erivo, Mikey Madison. She'll get nominated. I'm going to say Fernanda Torres now. I think that she's probably going to get nominated.
Yeah.
That's 4. Right. And the 5th is where I get kind of lost. Maybe Carla Sofia Gascon with Emilia Perez, maybe, but I don't know if that's as clear cut anymore as I would have thought, before the Globes on Sunday. I feel pretty confident about those 4. The 5th is where I'm kind of, it could still be Angelina Jolie for Maria. It could still be Tilda Swinton from The Room Next Door. That's a Pedro Almodovar movie, like a very, very well-respected director, longevity behind, like, I don't really know at this point, but those 4 kind of feel locked in. I don't know if you have any thoughts or maybe a potential 5th who can fit into that category.
I think I'm with you with those 4 for sure. Demi, Cynthia, Fernanda, and Mikey. But that 5th spot it's really, I don't know how the Academy's going to feel, and even potentially, another award show might influence that even better. I'm really not sure what's going to happen there. I could see Pam Anderson. Apparently, Last Showgirl is pretty decent, and she's pretty decent in it. Of course, else she wouldn't be nominated. But I really couldn't tell you. But yeah, we'll just have to see when it comes. I think I'll be, no matter what that 5th spot is, it's gonna make me go, oh, that's what y'all picked. Like no matter what it is, I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, that's what we're doing.
If I had to just pick, just as of, I would say my odds-on favorite is probably Carla. Again, just because
the way that went, I gotta go with Carla.
Yeah, right, Emilia Perez. Again, this is emerging as a huge favorite, and so to not have any representation in one of the main acting categories at the Oscars would probably be a little weird. We know that Zoe will be nominated and at this point likely win for supporting, but for Carla to not be nominated and Zoe to be nominated, that would cause, I think, a lot of issues, because now we're favoring Zoe, who I would still argue like she's a co-lead. I don't even think she's supporting, but still in the same token, Carla, the movie's named after her. She is a trans actress. This is a first time sort of situation. So if she were not to be nominated amongst the other 4, I think a lot of people would have a lot of feelings about that, and they would talk a lot about the Oscars and just like, oh, this is the same old shit, here we go again, and I don't know if that's likely, just considering the momentum behind Emilia Perez, but
that's true.
We'll see. Supporting actor and actress, Kieran Culkin, a real pain. I think Money in the Bank for him. I think he's going to just
Yeah.
waltz all the way through
Yeah,
award
got the
season.
whole season. Yeah, he got the whole season. It's fine.
And you know what's interesting about that is that, you know, in actuality, and again I'll talk about him later, Guy Pearce is really, really fucking good in The Brutalist. And
That's the asterisk.
he's still the guy
Guy
that
Pearce is like a little asterisk.
he's still
right
the
there,
guy
yeah.
that would be like the close second, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel like Kieran Culkin just has so much momentum already. He's using all the Succession stock. I do think that stuff matters. Even though it's like TV compared to movies, like they're different mediums, but I do think that matters. Like everybody saw Succession. We know how he is.
I agree.
He's playing sort of another version of that character, another version of himself. He gives pretty decent, succinct speeches. So I think he's probably going to just walk to the bank with that one, if I'm being honest, at this particular point. And the same could probably be said about Zoe Saldana. I mean, she made a really, really good case for herself with her speech. Hugely emotional. Probably a few too many tears for the Golden Globes, if I'm being honest. But be that as it may,
I was like, whoa.
It's like, man, it's January 1st.
Like, oh, you're going crazy.
We got like 12 shows left. Like, let's relax, pump the brakes. I'm maybe giving her a little bit of leeway. Maybe she in her head realized, damn, I probably will fucking win an Oscar. That's maybe what the tears were for, like preemptive tears. Like I might have a really good shot now, but she was super emotional. But thoughts on those two, you know, with the best supporting actor and actress conversations as they stand right now?
I think you're right. I think they'll walk away with it. I think we kind of already talked. Guy Pearce is like the little asterisk to me for best supporting actor. Got to see what, I don't know. Not BAFTAs, but SAGs are always like, what about this person? I'm like, oh, okay. They won the SAG. But best supporting actress, again, the only person I thought that wouldn't be Zoe is Ariana. I think she had a lot of heat behind her at first, and it seems like she is starting to fall off more and more as award season keeps going. But yeah, I think Zoe feels like, to be honest, out of all the things Emilia Perez won, this is the one award I was like, okay, cool. I was like, okay, cool.
She's incredible in the movie, for sure.
Incredible in the movie. Like I was like, she's going. Actually, she was going pretty nuts. And this is another one of those things where we know Zoe has been part of these A+ movies for so long that even though she was fantastic, Emilia Perez, I think a lot of people are also like, well, let's not forget Avatar and Gamora, and people on the streets love Colombiana. I don't know, just a lot of other things that she has done that is also coming to bubble up. Like, dang, Zoe ain't won this thing. You know what I mean? I don't know. But yeah, I think she's going to clean up. I think Kieran's going to clean up. And until I see something else, I can't really imagine it going any other way.
I mean, Zoe's given so much of her career to the literal biggest franchises that we've seen in Hollywood in the 21st century. I mean, she's been a part of nearly all of them. And in doing so, people can quickly forget just the pure talent that somebody might be capable of. And she's talked about this, how she arrived and got to a certain place when she was just really on autopilot. She wasn't really doing these things to challenge herself. Like it was just kind of what was comfortable, doing the Guardians movies and the Star Trek movies and the Avatar movies. Like we know that she can show up and do those things, and she's always kind of the best parts of those. I've said that numerous times. But when you see what she does in Emilia Perez, regardless of how you might feel about the rest of the movie, I mean, the woman can sing, dance, act, be dramatic, and be intense. She can just do so much. And Lioness, a show that made it into my top 25, like you can also see on the television side of things, her just pushing herself again in another direction. She's just doing a lot right now. And so there's just a lot of attention being paid to Zoe Saldana and just like the trajectory she's been on for such a long time. But as you said, Ariana Grande had been talked about quite a lot because of Wicked. And I do want to talk about Wicked quickly because Wicked did walk away with something. And it was the box office award that they give out, the brand new Cinematic and Box Office Achievement Award that they introduced last year. Last year it went to Barbie, which was the highest grossing movie of 2023 when it came out. And so when Barbie won, I don't think anybody was surprised. Now this year they went in a bit of a different direction because technically the highest grossing movie of this year is Inside Out 2, followed by Deadpool and Wolverine. In fact, Wicked is only the 6th highest grossing movie of 2024 as it stands now, but Wicked is the one that ended up winning this award. And so still no real clarity as to what the rules are and how they judge this and how they determine who actually walks away with this. Like, is it a story thing? Is it a narrative? Like, what is it exactly that determines a winner here? But I suspect that this is just likely a situation in which they knew, hey, Wicked, you're probably not going to win anything else. So let's give you this award and give you an opportunity to get on stage. That's what it felt like to me. It felt just like the make good because it just was not likely going to win any other competitive awards at this particular show.
Yeah, this first of all, we know this award is so bullshit. I don't know why we still have this award, but it's almost like the fan favorite blockbuster. That's what it feels like now. Like Barbie last year, it felt like that. This year, Wicked kind of feels like that. Like
that's the more appropriate fan favorite
blockbuster. Yeah, that's what it's starting to feel like. And like you said, they knew Wicked wasn't going to win anything else, so they were like, okay, how do we get everybody on stage? That's how we get everybody on stage at the same time. Say they won something. John Chu had a whole speech to give.
Way too fucking long, by the way. Like,
way too long.
You're
like,
you're winning an award for money, and you're acting like you just won Best Picture. Like, what are we doing here?
It's okay. This is not what you think it is, John Chu. I promise it's not what you think it is. But yeah, this award is so dumb. But I think I can understand. Like, hey guys, let's give Wicked something. I was like, all right, go ahead, y'all. Let's do that. But yeah, that's all.
They walked in there, the whole cast and everybody that showed up for Wicked. They knew if we get the opportunity, we are taking up every amount of space that we can, which is why they put John Chu up there, because the likelihood that he'll be on any stage for the rest of the season, it's highly unlikely. He probably won't get this chance again. So I guess he had to get off this long ass speech.
He'll be
there. He'll be seated. He'll be present. He'll be amongst the people. And I'm happy for him in that respect. But this is likely the first and last time we'll see him grace any stage to give a speech. And so he decided, I'm gonna make sure I give a speech, which, you know, it also confused me throughout the night because, like, earlier in the night, some speeches they were trying to rush through. They were playing the music. But then later in the night, when we got to some of these speeches, like his speech and even like Jacques Audiard when he won for Emilia Perez, not Best Director, but Best.
That boy put out pieces of paper.
They were paperclipped together, like ready to go. And he didn't speak English, and I'm like, oh, we're about to be here for a while. I didn't understand the timing cues. Like, why are we rushing off certain people but not other? Like, it just didn't add up. Yeah. Maybe they realized, like, oh, we actually have like a lot more time now. We can take our foot off the gas and maybe give them a little bit more moments here. But yeah, this is all just, you know, sort of adding up to just, you know, still a big conversation with Wicked, because, you know, again, with Wicked, the thing that sort of automatically disqualifies it from the Golden Globes in a certain respect is that they're not giving out awards for technical things, the below the line stuff.
Right.
And when the Academy nominations come out for Best Costume and set design, production design, and visual effects, like, we know Wicked's going to be there. But at the same time, what's also interesting, because I'm having a bit of a hard time, like, just deciphering, like, where are we going this year? Like, last year, it was just clear. Like, you had Barbie, hugely popular. Everybody loved it. But then on the other side, you had Oppenheimer, also hugely popular. But it was like, this is the crowning moment for Christopher Nolan. It was just easy, right? We just understood, like, this is the direction that we're going in. Now this year, I feel like it's just wide open. I don't know what the fuck is going to happen. Like, we talked about Emilia Perez and The Brutalist, but to be honest, I'm not ready to write Wicked off in totality, despite how I might personally feel about it. I think that there's still, like, quite a bit of momentum behind it. Maybe not to necessarily win Best Picture, but I'm not even ready to say that it doesn't have a shot at least. Like, it kind of has a shot, I still think. But I just don't know what it says about what's the narrative this year in totality. Like, what are we going for? Are we going for the populist film? Is Wicked the movie to put all of the energy behind and celebrate, you know, this movie that's focused on two women and their relationship and them, you know, sort of finding, you know, their bigger, better potential amongst each other and finding, you know, sort of the development of their relationship through, you know, challenging circumstances? Is it this audacious movie, Emilia Perez? Is it a story about the American dream and the warped mentality behind that whole thing and The Brutalist? Like, what are we going for here? And I don't know. It feels like as wide open as it's likely ever been heading into what we're going to see with Academy Award nominations. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but it's just a bigger conversation that I'm just, you know, thinking about, and I'm just constantly, like, trying to figure out where are we going to land with this and what is all that going to sort of look like and ultimately culminate to when we get to March, when the Academy Awards rolls around.
Yeah, it's so weird and so interesting. And like you said, Barbie and Oppenheimer, and mainly Oppenheimer, we were like, was the movie we were able to latch onto, and we're like, oh, this is what's going to ground award season. Like, we kind of just knew. We was like, this movie is so ridiculous that we just knew kind of how it was going to go. And we kind of don't have that this year. We have like a mix and match of all these other things, and nothing is really grounding award season, really. There are things in The Brutalist that feel like it should be grounding, but that's not true either. It doesn't have the same thing, some of the same things that Oppenheimer has, despite being a fantastic film. Again, it's clearly being recognized. It doesn't have that same grounding feature to it. And despite Emilia Perez winning all these awards here, I don't know if it's going to really do that the rest of award season. It's just really hard for me to tell, because again, coming into this thing, I'm like, Honora gonna win something, and now it ain't one a thing. So I'm like, is it gonna? Did we shut our Nora out of award season? I'm not sure.
It might be over for Nora, which would be crazy.
It might be. It would just blow my mind. And even when we were going through Best Director, I knew Brady Corbet. I was like, oh man, Brady Corbet is gonna win. But I was like, Sean Baker's right there too. But 100%. I don't know. Nora also, yeah, I was like, Sean Baker's right there too. And even I was also thinking Conclave also got completely shut out. And for a little bit, that also felt like a movie that could win something.
Well, it won best screenplay. It did win that.
Well, it did win screenplay. Yeah. It did win screenplay. But I was thinking of an actor award. If they decided to go with like a Ray Fiennes or something like that, I would have been like, oh, okay, maybe Conclave has some energy behind it. But nothing besides Emilia Perez in The Brutalist really feels like they have this energy behind it after this. And The Substance, those are like top 3 movies that are like, oh my God, there's a lot of energy behind these 3 films in particular. And so I don't know, like you said, I don't know where we're going. Usually I can have a feel for what the Academy Awards is going to feel like or be like. I'm out left in the wilderness right now. I'm kind of lost. It's going to take, I think, a little longer for me to wrap my head around some of these things, but I think it'll be interesting, that's for sure. And that makes for a fun Academy Award. Sometimes we don't know what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll see. I'm really interested.
It certainly is more interesting because we can't predict it and guess it at this point. Mm-hmm. I think it's interesting that there kind of is a movie out here that probably could have solved a lot of these conversations that we're having right now. Mm-hmm. And it's just like weirdly invisible and almost like off the radar. And that's Dune Part 2. Like Dune Part 2 is the erasure and the vanishing of Dune Part 2 is just like wild to me.
What are we doing? Thank you.
What happened to Dune Part 2 in any of these conversations? It's gone. And it might be over, which is really weird and wild to say, that it just might be over for Dune Part 2. I'm not ready to write it off. Like I think it, again, similar to Wicked, yeah. It'll get a lot of the below the line stuff. Mm-hmm. Yep. But is it gonna lose against Wicked? Are we really having that conversation right now?
Throw tomatoes at the screen.
But it's very likely that it might happen, which is just unbelievable to me. I just won't know what to think, because it's like those two. There's no comparison between those 2 movies. I'm sorry. I just cannot convince me otherwise.
I agree.
But if
one
Wicked
was at the bottom of my list, one was at the top of my list.
If Wicked ends up cleaning up, and taking away production design and potentially sound and costumes and editing, maybe over a movie like Dune Part 2, award. Editing is huge.
A big award. I think it'll give it to The Brutalist. I do. But yeah.
Perhaps so. Even though I think if my personal favorite would probably be between Nora and The Brutalist, those 2. But regardless, like I just don't understand that, like how we ended up in this particular place. I don't know if it's because it came out in March. Wicked's more recent on the top of mind of people. Wicked didn't make as much money, but I guess it's more beloved because it does have 20 years of Broadway history coming into it. There's a lot of factors, but it's pretty perplexing, and it's something that we're gonna have to deal with really soon here and just like unpack when the time comes. I just want to quickly shout out a couple of other things. Best animated feature film went to Flow. I screamed when this happened because I did not see it coming. I definitely thought the Wild Robot was going to win, which, by the way, rewatched the Wild Robot, completely changed my tune. That happens sometimes. Like the first time I watched it, I was like, and then the second time I watched it landed. But Flow is still my favorite animated movie of last year, and so when it won, I was extremely excited about that. But again, this is like New Globes. This is a movie from Latvia that beat the probably the most celebrated movie of last year, The Wild Robot. It beat $1 billion juggernaut in Inside Out 2. Moana 2 was on its way to make $1 billion. Wallace and Gromit has a huge legacy in British animation. Like, these are huge animated movies, and this small...
It just came out like today.
Yeah, this small movie, Flow, managed to come from behind and win. So I was very surprised, but elated about that. We talked about a lot of the Emilia Perez stuff. It also won original song and best non-English language film. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for challengers. That was huge for them.
Yes.
That's an incredible score. I'm glad that they won.
Yes, so good. I'm
It's
so happy they
really
won.
good. That's one of, I don't really listen to the soundtracks that often. That's one of the few that I do listen to. So I'm glad that won.
Yep.
And I think those are the big ones. Anything you want to say just about those other movie winners that walked away with trophies?
No, man. This is actually a really good, besides Moana 2, it was actually a really good animated feature kind of lineup there. I know I haven't seen Flow yet, but I just have a feeling I'll like it. Inside Out 2 was good. I'm hearing really good things about Memoir of a Snail as well. Another movie I wanted to see. And then The Wild Robot. I was just like, wow, this is a pretty good animated feature lineup we have here. I also... again, I kind of knew Emilia Perez won Best Original Song. I think it was a different song I had in my head, but I can't remember which one it was. But no matter how I feel or anybody feels about the movie, Emilia Perez had some songs in it. I was like, wow, that was a pretty cool song. I remember that song. But I think from here on out, I actually do think we'll see this song in particular, El Mal, be the song Emilia Perez might win in other award season shows. And then, like you said, bro, I was really happy to see Challengers win this thing, because if you haven't, there's a couple songs from Challenger soundtrack that you need to put on your workout playlist right now. That thing will get you going. I swear it will. But yeah, I was very happy to see them win, because I think in the back of my head there was a Brutalist thing that could happen there, Emilia Perez thing that could happen, but I'm really glad Challengers won. It was like the most memorable, I think, for me out of all those. I was like, no, Challengers went crazy.
Yeah, I remember when they were reading the nominees and the Brutalist came up first, and I'm like, oh, yep, that's winning, because that's like my other favorite score of the year. The Brutalist score is phenomenal. And then before they closed it out, it was like, oh, and Challengers, and I was like, uh-oh, wait, pump the brakes. Actually, take that back. That's probably the one, because, yeah, it's a really, really phenomenal score. Match Point is like the one standout song from that sound. It's so good. It's so good. So I think that those two might do pretty well for the remainder of the season as well. And just quickly with the TV stuff, again, I don't have a ton to say about this, like not really too many surprises, but I do want to just call out a couple of things. First and foremost, Colin Farrell winning for The Penguin, Best Actor in a Limited Series. He wasn't eligible for the Emmys because the show hadn't come out yet, so this is like his first big trophy for that show that just ended, Really, really incredible performance there. But then also Jessica Gunning, she won for Baby Reindeer. She did not win at the Emmys. And then Tadanobu Asano won for Shogun. He did not win at the Emmys, but he actually won the trophy here. And I think gave like a great speech. He just kept it simple. Thank you for this gift. I love it. I gotta go to work tomorrow on season 2 and I'm out. And then again, the rest of the awards, Jodie Foster, she won again. Jeremy Allen White won again. And then the rest of the categories, Anna Sawai, Hiroyuki Sanada, Gene Smart. We've seen all these people win the Emmys. And so, not a ton of surprises, a lot of repeat business. But any thoughts before we close out on the TV stuff and just, some of the notable takeaways from that?
Man, Tadanobu Asano had the most energy on that stage. Like everybody, I love when people get up and give speeches that give everybody energy. I don't know, it just changes the award show a little bit. It's like, oh my God, because sometimes, of course, speeches go up there and you're like, wow, that was cool, but that was a little boring, and everybody's just kind of listening, and But like you said, it was short, but it was like, wow, he has a ton of energy. Very happy for Colin Farrell in The Penguin. When the Emmys came around, I hadn't seen Ripley yet, but I've seen Ripley now, and Andrew Scott was going crazy.
It's incredible.
In Ripley. Incredible. He was going absolutely insane. I was like, what am I watching? But yeah, he was doing really good. And then a lot of people don't talk about the stand-up category, man. Shout out to Ali Wong for winning that thing. I was like, oh shoot.
The Netflix award. That's what this is.
Yeah. Where else are people? Where else can you watch stand up for real? Besides that,
Max got a
couple things.
Max got a few.
I would say Max got a little bit, but yeah, it's definitely the Netflix special award is what they should call it, low key. But yeah, very happy for Ali Wong. She was like surprised that she won it. I don't know. I thought that was really funny. But yeah, shout out to Ali Wong, and like you said, they pretty much copy and pasted from the Emmys. Besides those couple people. Oh, I did want to say, Jodie Foster. I don't know, I don't know.
I mean, I just rooted for Kristen Milioti for sure.
Yeah, I was, but in my mind, Jodie was like 3 or 4. You know what I mean? Like
she won the Emmy. She won the Emmy.
She did. So I understand that, but I was just like, I don't know. I was hoping they would do something different. They didn't. That's fine. I'll get over it.
Sophia had that funny moment where she yelled out to Jodie, "Give me one. You got like 7 of these now." Jodie has won a lot of Gold Globes. But,
exactly.
I was not. I'm like, yeah. Once I remembered, like, yeah, she did win the Emmy. I was very much rooting for. I thought Kristen might have had a good shot considering Colin had won.
Colin,
I thought Richard Gad was going to win for Baby Reindeer. I thought it was just going to be complete copy and paste, and they switched it up there. But yeah, Jodie Foster, that's a Golden Globes legend. She has so many Golden Globe trophies. So that's just one of those things. But it would have been more interesting to do something a little bit different. But we'll ultimately stick with this, and obviously follow the rest of these awards. Academy Award nominations drop January 17th. So that's just in a short couple of weeks here. It's going to tell us a lot about the next couple of months and what we have to look forward to. And as we've already sort of stated here numerous times, it's kind of anybody's guess on many of these movie categories. And so it'll be interesting to stick with this and see all that shakes up and shakes out. But folks, those are all of our thoughts on the 82nd Golden Globe Awards. If you happen to check out the show or you have any thoughts on the winners from the big night, definitely hit us up and let us know what you think.